Of the Opera, Update 6.3 confidently marches into the mobile world of tanks. The new tank branch that represents many nationalities. The combined European branch of light and medium tanks features their national feature, the auto-reloading system. This gun mechanic combines the standard and auto-loading system.
Shut up and take my money!
Oh guys, I don't know if you felt the same way when you started seeing some of the first videos come out about the new Italian and European line coming out. This is Stud Muffin 1986, and do we have a review and gameplay for you guys of every Tech Tree tank in the new Italian Tech Tree line. Quite excited to go over this with you. This is a video of every tank, most of them fully upgraded. There's only a couple that are not quite upgraded, and I'll outline which one those are exactly, but let's dive in here. We're going to be starting out with the Tier 1. This one is pretty much what you can expect from a Tier 1. There really is not much to say about this tank. When going in and just playing it, it was just actually quite funny, and this is just what you experience, I think, when playing with just about any brand new Tech Tree line coming out, is when you go in and you start playing a game, every single person is playing the exact same tank. I think in probably the first 2 or 3 tiers, everyone is playing the exact same things. You should be able to get a really good feel on a little bit on how this performs, not just from my performance, but also the performance of everybody else playing in the game as well. So quite excited here. The new Italian EU line. Now, not every single tank is Italian. There's just kind of a mix of different countries here. But pretty cool. I mean, with this update, they did make some changes, like the Ram got the Canadian flag, and the Sentinels got the Australian flag. So pretty dang cool. So the Tier 1 here, honestly, it's not a bad tank. Like I said, it's just basically what you would expect from a Tier 1. Now, out of all these video replays from each tier, this is probably definitely going to be the longest video review, but one that I thought would be really cool. We're going to be going through the road to the Progetto 65. I do have every single one of these tanks. This video by no means was cheap, and I personally, and I know I've said this before in another video I made, I don't buy tanks based on I want to buy them because I want to make a video on it. Not at all. Honestly, I purchased it because I wanted to play the tank, and 100% that is what this is all about. I wanted to play them. I'm a grown-up, I've got my own money, and it was my decision, and that's what I wanted to do. And honestly, I was quite happy with it. And just to give you guys some context into that, I spent $250. And that's everything inclusive here. So that was the Tier 1, just to give you guys a little bit of a feel. Like I said, just to what you would expect from a Tier 1. Tier 2, now just going in here, honestly, it's kind of the same thing here. I think, honestly, for the first 2 tiers, there's nothing, honestly, that really stands out about these lower tier tanks. They all kind of have their own same feel to them. Once again, playing pretty much against everyone, playing the same exact tank. And honestly, I mean, it's a good tank. I don't know if I really had a complaint against any of the tier, any of the Italian or EU tanks in the entire Tech Tree line. Now, with that being said, I ended up paying to have most of my tanks crew 100%, everything upgraded 100%. So while you're doing this should give you a good idea of what tanks feel like through these replays, fully upgraded with the modules and the provision, modules and provisions, and just really what you expect. Now, I'm kind of getting wasted here a little bit, and that enemy off to my right is giving me a little bit of a hard time, trying to just peek up and just get some shots here, and then I got an enemy that just comes up right behind me. I kind of get myself in a little bit of a bad situation here as I'm just trying to crest the peak there and trying to get some of the bad guys, and I kind of go noob a little bit. But this is raw right here, ladies and gentlemen. Every single game that you're seeing is the first game I am playing for every single tier. So you guys are seeing what my exact first game was across each tier. So going into the tier 3, still everyone is playing the same exact tank, and that does start fizzing out as expected. But as for now, we're still in that phase. So tier 3, I mean, this one kind of the same thing. It's got good maneuverability. You got a good cannon. Honestly, I didn't really have any complaints about it. I couldn't honestly tell you a whole lot. It was, the funny thing is being that we were all playing against the same exact tank. The one downfall about it is you have a hard time really estimating what it's like playing against other tanks, whether, you know, the penetration and things like that. And you could probably get a feel for that with the, you know, different values and things we can look at in the stats. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is these are primarily medium tanks. I mean, these are tanks that you're supposed to be spotting with, giving your team eyes on the field. And being that we're all basically the same exact tank, we're all in a way giving each other eyes. They're giving each other eyes on us to know where they're at. So especially in these lower tiers, you know, it was crazy. Sometimes coming into some of these games, there were some tiers I was going into, and I've never had to wait so long in queue before getting into a game before. It was crazy. I don't know about you guys, or if you guys experienced the same thing, but there was a few times that I had to wait, sometimes up to, you know, a few minutes, 4 minutes. I think at one time it even almost got to 5 minutes. And I don't know how, you know, the queue is normally for some people, but typically I can push the battle button and just get right into a game most of the time. So these new Italian tanks, the thing that just makes them so cool is it's really adding, especially these lower tiers don't really do it, honestly. I mean, they're pretty standard. You got the single shot, you know, boom, wait, reload, boom, wait, reload, you know, just the standard cannons all the way up until you hit tier 8. That is when things get exciting. So as you see there, you know, pretty standard. But that is where it gets exciting, and people love new tech trees, new, you know, tech tree tanks, and not only that, but especially a brand new country, Italian and EU line, just very, very exciting. And there were a ton of players, I think, you know, in the queue, more than normal. And it's exciting, honestly. Blitz is a awesome, and from a previous video I had made, it's a growing game. It's really exciting. So here we are, we're playing the tier 4, and I As you can kind of see from this video, I do get myself in a little bit of trouble here, just getting myself pinned. None of these tanks really have any armor, and I know we're all playing kind of against the same tank, and that's going to change here. None of these tanks really have any good armor, and neither are they supposed to. A lot of these tanks, you're really supposed to be relying more on your maneuverability and your view range. You're a tank that's supposed to be spotting, you know, moving around, and that's what I'm really trying to do here. I really don't want to get in front of that Hetzer. Neither, let alone do I really want to get in front of any tank and receive any sort of damage. But, you know, these guys were really putting up a good fight. And it's interesting because even at these tiers, the one thing that I did notice is they do have a little bit of a derpiness factor to them. The reload does start slowing down. You'll really start to see that in the tier 5 a little bit. But they're not bad tanks. I mean, like I said, it's kind of what you'd expect also for a tier 4. I don't know if I really noticed anything that stood out a whole lot about them. But honestly, like, and I guess I should have probably gone through and maybe done a little bit of a natural grind, maybe what it was like before upgrading the tank. But that's the thing is, I think it's kind of funny because back in the day, you had to go through this process of upgrading your crew up to 100%. But, and I haven't honestly done this in a long time with really grinding a tank, but I think up to like a certain tier, you don't even have to worry about upgrading a crew at all. So honestly, lucky you guys. I think that was different back in the day. So here we are, the Copperfield, playing the tier 5. The one thing that really stood out to me about the tier 5 was the gun depression. I'm going in and you can see I'm looking down, and you could just see how far down that cannon goes. Which that was one thing, like I said, that really stood out to me with this tank. So really just trying to get up here, get some eyes, and you know, trying to just get some clever shots off here. And so with also trying to maybe spot, I know that I'm spotted right now, so if there are any enemies over on the right side of the map, I do have to be a little careful. I just get spotted. But yeah, I mean, the gun depression on the tier 5 honestly was pretty impressive. Probably the most impressive thing about this tank. It does have the standard mechanism, so like I said, you don't run into the special auto reloading system until you get to the tier 8. But yeah, I mean, it does have, you know, honestly, it was a good tank, and it was, yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, I think this is a lot of where people are at that are not spending any gold or money in the game. They have maybe some players that have been in the game a little bit longer. This is kind of, I think you start seeing some of these more experienced players with these newer tanks at tier 5, 6, 7, maybe 8. If they have, you know, a ton of free XP and credits to do this. In order for me to have done this, I actually had to go through, and just to save myself a little money, I had to go through and basically sell all my ammo across my tier 10s, my tier 9s, my tier 8s. So this may be the only tank that I'll play for. Maybe some tier 8 premiums just to get some credits, as I'm pretty poor right now with basically no credit. So yeah, I mean, really, the team did a great job in this. The speed is, you know, it's really like okay. It's, you know, nothing special. I think the speed and maneuverability in this thing was pretty standard. Kind of an interesting looking tank. But yeah, team did pretty good. Hopefully that gave you somewhat of a feel for the tier 5. And as we start getting into the tier 6, honestly, tier 6 is where things start getting a little exciting. I honestly, probably 95% of the time, this is where I'm spending the majority of my time in Blitz, is with these higher tier tanks. And so even when going through this tech tree and playing each tank for the first time, I had to sell even some of the previous tanks just to help save myself some money. And it's not so much like, oh man, so poor here, but honestly, it was just like, I was just trying to save myself just a little money. I really wanted to get to the tier 10. So this right here you're witnessing is a fully upgraded tier 6, and all the other ones that you've seen is like what and how the tanks perform with them being fully upgraded. This one, honestly, it was a good tank. It had good maneuverability. It has a good view range. Its cannon, I honestly didn't have any issues with it. Really just trying to sneak some shots in here. That is one of the biggest things with me. Sometimes when the adrenaline's just up, it's just something that I just get sucked into sometimes, just this tunnel visioning a little bit. And that's definitely something I need to work on. But yeah, really, the thing is, you definitely do not want to get yourself in a position where you're relying on your armor whatsoever. You did notice as I was coming down the track, even how some of the armor of another one that I was pointing at. It does have some good angles, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, you're a type of tank that doesn't you're not supposed to be putting yourself in situations to be relying on your armor, and that goes for all of these tanks. Some tech tree line tanks, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes it's a little backwards. Sometimes you have tanks in the tech tree line that have like a ton of armor, and then you go to tanks that have like no armor. So it can be a little different. I would say with this tech tree line, it's fairly consistent. The way that you're having to play with the different tanks is honestly fairly similar, and the feel of it's fairly similar, obviously until you get to those higher tiers with the auto reloading system. So tier 7 going into a game here, and once again, this is the commonality between everyone playing the same tank that is really fizzled out now. There's not too many players that have this, so this may give you a little bit of a better feel for how this tank performs against something a little bit different. And I think you're able to see that also just a little bit in the previous game. So trying to support my team here once again, putting myself in a position to try to get some eyes on the team. I really, I enjoyed, I think, every tank in the tech tree line. There's also some tanks in a tech tree line that sometimes you can say some not so good things about, which can be a little difficult. But honestly, this was a tech tree line that, with the fully upgraded, now like I said, this is obvious. This is also the point where you do have to start making sure your crew is upgraded. They don't just give that to you. So that does also play a part. But this will give you guys a little bit of a feel on how the tank performs fully decked out. Now, I will admit the tier 7 tank and the tier 8 tank are the two that are not quite fully upgraded. The tier 8 tank, I do have 100% trained with the consumables and but I don't have the modules fully upgraded with. I do have the cannon, and on that part of it, the weaponry fully upgraded, but the engine I don't have fully upgraded on the tier 8. And then on the tier 7 here, it's a little similar. However, this one I do have all the equipment, the modules fully upgraded, but I think this is 75% trained. So you can expect when you do get these tanks, and you do have them fully upgraded, they are going to perform a little better than what you're seeing right now. So I just wanted to throw that out there. These were the only 2 tanks that I didn't have quite fully upgraded. Honestly, I wanted to save my money for the higher tier tanks. So just wanted to be honest with you there in this one. So yeah, I mean, trying to like just really get in here, get some shots off. It was, pretty good tank. You got decent maneuverability, aim time. I do bounce some rounds here. my friend got in trouble there. I tried to help him out a little bit. I ended up finding myself in actually a bit of trouble here. And honestly, I kind of thought we had this, but after I got kind of just shot, my driver got killed, and this guy, I took another hit here. This is where I lost my driver, and I start struggling, and I'm thinking like, I need to get out of here and run, and this guy's pushing, and I'm like, shoot, I don't have the speed, I don't think, to get away from this guy. I'm kind of in trouble. I was hoping he would have maybe gone and focused on the KV, but being how low of hit points, I don't blame that he was coming. I was actually trying to track him right there. Totally messed up. So kind of killed it there for my team. I really think we could have pulled that one through and won that one, but the enemy did a really good job, and they performed just a bit better than us. So yeah, like I said, these are the first games in each tier. So here we go. We now enter the tier 8. This is the first time you run into having, when fully upgrading your cannon, you're going to have the new auto reloading system. Now, this is the first time I have ever played with the auto reloading mechanism. And now with this tank, like I had mentioned, I do have this tank crew at 100%. I'm using consumables. However, I don't have some of the equipment fully upgraded. I do have the view range on this thing maxed out. So this one's not at 100%, so you can expect some better maneuverability. I didn't even have the fully upgraded engine with this thing, so I'm playing a little bit more conservative just because I am a little slower. When you guys have this thing fully upgraded, you're going to have a lot more maneuverability and be able to do a bit more than what I'm doing. I was a bit limited here, and yeah, it was also kind of funny because this Dragon T62 player, the enemy in the Dragon light tank here, really puts up a good fight, and yeah, it really goes to show you too. I think I've mentioned in another video how good the T62 is, and T62 just really rips me up here in this one. Does a really good job, but I'm really trying to get eyes on the cap, trying to help my team. The auto reloading system you can see here taking in effect. It is really, really cool. Now, the one thing that I did notice is, unlike a reloader, and I think they even mentioned this in the videos, and you can see this in the stats, is it is different. Once you have those 3 shells in your magazine, it doesn't work like a standard auto loader where you like shoot a round, shoot your next round, shoot your next round, and then you have to wait for all 3 of those rounds to be shot. Or you don't have, basically you could really do this at any point when shooting your rounds, but you don't have to completely do a entire reset reload to wait that entire long wait time to get your mag filled. This one just automatically starts reloading one shell after another, so which was really, really cool, and definitely adds a different dynamic to the game. But the one thing that I did notice that is a little bit of a downfall compared to a standard autoloader is the autoloader and I've got to go back into the stats and look at this, but it just feels like a standard autoloader across the board just shoots a lot faster. So when you get yourself in position, sorry, just side note, here's the tier 9, the standard B, but you get yourself in a position with a standard autoloader, you can unload those rounds a bit faster. However, that reload is a lot longer, whereas this thing, you get yourself in a situation to start firing these rounds, and they just seemed just a little slower per shot. And so, in a way, that part of it, since I'm so used to the standard auto loading system and not an auto reloading system, I was expecting a little bit of that, but it is a little different, and there is some balancing here. So I'm able to reload a shell automatically after shooting another one, regardless of where I am in the clip, which is pretty cool. Standard B, honestly, is a great tank. It has, as you can see here, so the Standard B, the tier 9, and what you're seeing right now is fully decked out. I've got all the modules, all the equipment, my crew's at 100%. So at tier 9 and also tier 10, this will give you a good idea of what it's like looking at these. So yeah, this this other tier 8 Pantera is a good player, and he ends up kicking my butt a little bit, and I'm trying to go in and like help my team out, and really just trying to once again get myself in situations where I'm not relying on my armor a ton. And yeah, and the other cool thing too is that with this new update, the Tiger 2 has just received a buff in its armor in a lot of places, which, to be honest with you, hallelujah, because the Tiger 2 is one tank that I've always felt like that was just, it really needed something, especially after when the low got an update. Anyway, that's kind of a sidetrack, and I don't want to completely distract from this amazing new Italian EU tech tree line. So, but yeah, this is just a little bit of a side note because you can see the Tiger 2 here in just a little bit of a gameplay. This player does a good job with playing it, especially being against two TDs. In a way, I was originally thinking like, oh, it's game over. But then I started remembering, oh yeah, the Tiger 2 had this buff. So I was actually really excited to kind of see maybe how this would perform a little bit. Now, tank destroyers have some amazing cannons in the game. And this player, he just does a good job with it. So anyway, the Standard B honestly is a great tank. It has, when I was driving it around, it has some good maneuverability. Good maneuverability in its traverse and such, and good speed, good view range, and once again, you have that auto reloading system, which was really, really cool. So honestly, I love the variety. I love that wargaming comes out with these tanks that are just unique. There are so many different types of tanks in the game. So here we go. We're finally here. The tier 10 Progetto 65 with the awesome special camo. So honestly, this thing is going to give you, I feel like this replay really sums it up. You're going to see this tank in some different situations. So I'm able to get some great snapshots there of some enemies crossing over, but This I feel like this replay is pretty all-inclusive on what you can expect from the Progetto. I have this thing fully upgraded. Once again, I do not have any armor in this thing. You are going to get very easily penned, and that is how it is, even with the standard B across the board. Trying to get myself out of here. I'm right now in a situation that if I peek up really much, if at all, I've got the enemy completely focusing on me, and it's going to be this little game of, you know, whack-a-mole, I guess so to say, where, you know, the enemy is going to try to, like, just nail me and just be focused on me so much. But you could see, you know, it's got good maneuverability, but there were a couple things that I was actually struggling with with this tank, and you're going to notice it is the shell. Number one was the shell velocity. I started to try to aim in and get some shots. I'm a little further out here, but unlike some, like the Leopard, that has just laser accuracy, you're going to see in this replay how the shell velocity is with the Progetto 65. Honestly, it's a little bit on the slower side. And especially when you're shooting a little bit from the distance, your accuracy, you can't expect something like the Leopard or the T62A that's got that incredible accuracy. This is going to be a little different. And with your shell velocity being a little slower, you have to try to compensate for that just a little bit more as you're driving around, as it's going to take your shell a little bit longer than some other tanks. And I wasn't so used to that. So the shell velocity on this tank is a little slower than what you would expect. And it is a downfall, because you'll start noticing here, especially when I come up over here, I'm trying to get on the side. I totally forgot I was playing Supremacy mode. I should have pushed way harder here. I didn't realize that the game was almost over. But I see this guy, this E5, and I'm trying to just snap some shots off of him just real quick. And you're going to start seeing just the accuracy and the shell velocity taking place here when you start trying to get an enemy from a distance. It honestly was a little frustrating. But, you know, honestly, I'm not like a TD or something. So anyway, what a video. The Progetto 65, all in all, awesome tank. Love the new auto reloading system. I think you guys will too. I think it's definitely aligned to grind. This is Stud Muffin 1986. You guys stay cool and keep tanking.